Hi there. This is episode number 35, and today I have Megane Dreyfuss Lande with us. She is based in Israel, and she's the co-founder and chief operating officer at the Developers.institute. She is a marketing and educational professional with over 5 years experience. She co-founded and managed the Family Lyon, the first free but highly selective school for startup employees, and worked for several startups. She worked as an accountant strategist for the French telco at Google and also as a UK sales manager for Critel, a software startup. Megan is also a public speaker and teacher on various massive open online courses, platforms in Spain, France, and the US. She speaks fluent French, Hebrew, English, and lived and worked in seven different countries. She is passionate about ukulele and about teaching and helping others. And Megan, it's fantastic to have you here with us today, and great honor. And first question I usually ask people is, how did you start? But I'm going to ask a little bit of a different question. I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about the Developers Institute. I think you're telling me offline that it's growing, and you're in several different countries right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me to this podcast. I'm super excited to share my experience with you. And if after this podcast you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If seriously, I would love to help you guys, anyone listening. So, my name is Megan, and as you said, I co-founded the Developers Institute coding bootcamp 4 years ago. We have three co-founders. We are three co-founders. The first one is Jeremy Berube. He's a ultra Orthodox Jew, father of 16 children, who became famous by investing in more than 300 startups. My second co-founder is Avner Maman. He has more than 20 years experience in web development. And basically, just after I made Aliyah, which is when you come and live in Israel, I started working into the startup nation, and I discovered an amazing and accessible community with unlimited potential. And I realized that with resilience and motivation, and of course benevolence, anyone can be a successful coder. And I was telling you as well offline about my husband. My husband is the perfect example, and he's a real inspiration for me. So despite being deaf, he preserved and now is a brilliant coder. And this is how we decided to select our students, not just based on, your diploma, but also on your mindset and what you want to do. And when I met Avner, my first co-founder, and Jeremy, we had this passion for values and for education. And this is how naturally Developers Institute came up.
That's a fantastic story. And how many countries are you guys covering right now? Because I think you told me you guys in Cameroon and also in other countries as well. Can you speak a little bit about that as well?
Of course. So basically, we opened 4 years ago in Israel. And like a lot of business all around the world, Corona definitely changed our DNA. We had basically two ways to react, or to basically die, because by the end of the day, we were not allowed to meet and to do our classes in physical like we used to do, or to change drastically our business model. So we decided to go offline to use the new tools that basically 2021 and 2020 gave us. And we digitalized the entire bootcamp. We realized that we had a lot of countries basically waiting for a program like this, not just based on diploma, but also based on mindset and on the passion and the attitude of the students. And slowly, we opened in Cameroon. We got invited by the ambassador, the Israeli ambassador there, to represent Israel, and we left the country by building a school in Yaoundé. And we opened in Senegal and in Mali, in Africa, and in Burkina Faso. We are now opening Georgia, Singapore, and also Abu Dhabi. So we are very excited to welcome basically those new developers from all over the world. And we cannot wait to come to see you guys in Brazil, in Portugal, or in Canada. Who knows?
That's fantastic. That's it's going everywhere. It's also interesting to see how the pandemic is, even though it's not a good situation, it's really helping businesses think in different ways, and people are being creative and taking the businesses everywhere, right? So it is absolutely fantastic. So just let's stop talking about that for one second here. Let's go back to the beginning of your life, because you told me you were born in France, in Lyon, right? So I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit about how was it at the beginning there to go to, your basic education, your high school, eventually went going to university. How was it to grow up in France, and how was it the process of obtaining the education that's so important for you to evolve in your professional career? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Of course. Actually, it's a quite a fun story. Basically, since I'm 6, 7 years old, and I go to school like a normal kid, my parents had the opportunity to put me in the public school of our neighborhood, and I met a lot of people from all over the world. In France, you have the chance to meet people from seriously the four corners of the world. So I had friends, they were coming from all over France, obviously, but also I had friends from Spain, from Italy, from Bulgaria. I also had some friends from North Africa, and I realized at school the importance and how important it was to be part of a community, the community of the school, or the community of your clubs or hobbies. I really wanted to be a good kid. I really wanted to be a good student, but I never really understood what teachers and professors wanted from me. So I was a hard worker, but I was definitely not the best student. And then I realized that as long as I was showing the right attitude to my teachers, they were a bit nicer to me. They were helping me reaching the actual level. So I realized that if I was working on my attitude and my network, I could get the same way and in the same spot than someone who was better grade but less attitude and less power of a community. So basically, I grew up like this, and during high school, I took care of a lot of clubs. I was still not a really good student, but I had a lot of, NGOs working on and a lot of projects to work on. I actually launched my first humanitarian project when I was 17 in high school, and I realized the power of entrepreneurship and the power of what you can do by yourself. And then that was the time at the end of the high school, I was supposed to choose a university or a profession, and my dream was to be a doctor. But I was not good enough at school. My grades were definitely not the best. So I kind of went to a private university, the Catholic University of Lyon. And I really loved their curriculum because that was the only curriculum that gave me the opportunity to travel, to study abroad thanks to Erasmus, and to also do some exchange program in the US. So after my high school, I went to study in Marshall University in West Virginia. And then on my fourth year, I went to study in Rome at the University of the Vatican. And after 5 years of basically a business school where you study everything about business, which is law, accounting, and languages and organizationals, psychology, etc., I got my master degree in logistics. And I realized that this is definitely not where I want to work. But I also understood that by the end of the day, no matter what you want to do, you have to have a diploma, because I will let you know later in this podcast, but the more you follow my career, the more you understand that my diploma was not important. What I studied was not important. The only thing which was important was the fact that I did a diploma. Because studying a master degree or a BA or a BSc actually show to anyone, any employer or any co-founders, that you are serious, that you know how to work on long-term goals and long-term projects, and you know how to finish something that you started 4 years ago. And that, I would say, was the most important part in my education. Not the fact that I studied logistics, nobody really cared. But people really enjoyed in every time I speak with recruiters, the fact that students can actually sit for 4 years and be specialists about something.
That's very important what you just said, right? So because at the end of the show, you accomplished a complex objective. So you showed others that you're capable of sitting down and saying, okay, in 4 years from now, I'm going to be there. And you executed everything they had to execute to be there. So that helped others to understand who you are, right? And that's really incredible. So then you just told me that you saw that logistics was not something that interests you, right? Why did you take your career from there? Because you with 17 years old, you're launching NGOs, you're kind of getting an interest. So you got your master's, you finished your master's, and you said, I don't like this logistics thing. So how did you go into your career after that? How did you get to your first job after finishing your master's degree?
That's a really good question. So just as soon as I finished my master degree, I was lucky enough to arrive on the job market during the subprime crisis. So it was really hard, during the subprime crisis to find a job. No one was actually hiring. No one was hiring in France. And I didn't find any job in France for 3 months. And I told myself, I cannot stay like this. I cannot stay at home, not doing anything. If no one wants to hire me in France, I will go somewhere else. So I took my little suitcase and I went to Belgium because I understood that in Brussels, people could actually hire a bit more. So obviously, no one's going to offer you a job like this, especially when no one knows you. So I offered to a company to basically be an intern for them. And this company was not so important. The only thing I wanted to be was I wanted to be a recruiter. I wanted to be an HR because I told myself, if you have no idea about what you want to do in life, the better way to start your career is to be in HR because by working in human resources, you know actually what kind of positions people are doing, what kind of diplomas we need in order to achieve those positions, and what kind of experience do you need to have in order to achieve those positions. And you also know a very important factor, which is what is their salary? How much it costs someone who works in marketing? What would be my expected salary? So because I had no idea about what I wanted to do, I went to be an intern as an HR, as a human resources manager, just to understand the market, understand what I was supposed to do in order to achieve a certain position I liked. And when I realized after 1 year as an HR, I realized that basically, one, I wanted to I wanted to work in Israel. I understood that in Israel, people were having a really good profiles and they were having really good salaries. And the second thing I understood is that I wanted to work or in marketing or in development. The problem is that I had no idea about what was coding before, so I took an easy way and I decided to orient my career into marketing.
It's very interesting that you took a job as an intern, and you're basically doing the job. You're doing research, but to help you understand how to what you wanted to do, what really interested you, and where to go, right? So tell us a little bit more. How did you get? Did you go straight to Israel after that intern job, or did you go somewhere else, or what was the next step after spending that 1 year as an intern and realizing I want to go do marketing, I want to go work in Israel? So what was your next step? Where did you go then?
So naturally, I told to my company about Israel. They were only having, they were having already offices in Luxembourg and in Brussels and Paris and in Amsterdam. And I understood that they wanted to go to Israel, but they didn't really have the opportunity yet. So I just approached my boss and I told him, I said, listen, my dad is Israeli. I really want to go there, and I would love to just launch the office in Israel. Just give me the business card, a computer, and an office, and I will make sure that this will happen. And basically, that was kind of my first entrepreneurial journey because even if I had a managing director there, we had to create everything from scratch. We had to discover which tool we want to use, and we had to market ourselves. We had to recruit our first candidates. we had to write our own speeches, and then we had to find our own clients. So basically, it was being an entrepreneur, so launching a company from another company. I was not so much interested into shares and my positions and my salary, because I knew that what I will learn during this journey will be much more important than any salary I will get. So I really focused on my learning curve rather than my comfort zone or my happiness at work. I took it really as a university course. I need to go over this, I need to finish this. I have a year to launch this office in Tel Aviv. Let's do it. So I just took a flight from Brussels to Tel Aviv, a little EasyJet flight. I didn't think I will never go back to Europe. And from there, I launched the office. And after a year, things were going great, and it was a bit of a routine, and I was supposed to manage a team, etc. And I didn't really enjoy the job, so I told myself, no, I'm finished to learn that part. Now I want to go into marketing. I know everything about HR. I know everything about Israel. Israel is the best place to learn about marketing. So let's find a job as a marketer. And then I went to find a job as a marketer.
So you're in Israel, and your father is Israeli. Was it your first time in Israel, or had you been in Israel before? So how did you learn about the country when you're there, and how did you, I'm imagining here you got there, like you said, with your suitcase and not much. You open the office and you're learning about Israel. You're realizing how things are growing, and you say, okay, it's time to go into marketing over here. So what was your overall strategy to determine the path and realize it's time to go into marketing, and this is what I want to do here? And how did you start there working on marketing? Did you set up a different company, or did you go work for somebody else?
So, first of all, Israel is a country that I know since I was born. My dad is Israeli, and I have a lot of family here. As naturally, I'm Jewish, so we have a really good connection and a strong connection with Israel, obviously. And I knew that I wanted somehow to try and live in Tel Aviv, because you have Israel and you have Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is the capital, the economical capital of Israel. Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. And basically, you will understand that in Tel Aviv, life is totally different. Everyone is really open minded. You can be crazy as you want. It's like London or New York. You have a very high standing of living. You have the beach, and you have parties, young people, and really cool atmosphere. And I wanted to taste that. So I just decided to come here and taste it. Basically, it's okay if I didn't like it, I would have go back or go somewhere else. The one of the first lesson I learned was never be afraid to taste something new, because by the end of the day it can be a life-changing experience, and that's what happened with Israel. When I came, as soon as I finished my mission with this company as an HR, I sent my CV. I was sending 50 CVs a day, and as soon as I got a yes, I was basically reading everything about the company online, reading everything about the founders online as well. So if I saw that they liked kite surfing, then I was telling them about kite surfing and learning about kite surfing. And one day, this company, which was called Maudo, they were specialized into helping Facebook application grow, were interested by the fact that I was speaking few European languages, and they wanted to launch a European branch. So from Israel, I start working to launch a virtual office for their European clients, and this is how I worked for marketing for a Modo. I learned a lot about Facebook, about advertising, about ad tech, SEO, and obviously about coding as well. And this is where I discovered this amazing potential of learning in this amazing world that we call today in Israel the high-tech world.
And Megan, can you tell us a little bit more about the importance of marketing? Because you're talking about entrepreneurship, you're talking about creating businesses, and in my group and the programming group and the podcast, we talk about a lot about code development, coders, but there's also the importance of marketing and being able to tell others about what you do and how you can help them. I was hoping you could give us a 5 seconds overview of the importance of marketing in whatever you're doing as a business. Can you do that?
Of course, basically, marketing is important because it gives you the opportunity to tell about your product to the right people at the right time and the right place. And by the end of the day, you can have the best product in the world if you don't organize the communication around it. So you don't organize the marketing around it, nobody will ever hear about it, use it, or buy it.
So it doesn't matter how good the product is, if you don't do the proper marketing, nobody's going to use the product, right? So it is certainly very important. And Megan, how is it? So you're there, you got into your marketing job, and what did you do on that job? So you helped the organization to open your business in Europe, or how did that evolve into your next opportunity? And you mentioned here that you, at that point in time, you, with the exposure that you're going to Facebook and other items in there, that you realize the importance of education as well, and some of the opportunities in that area. How did you get into some of the other activities and going to work for the French telco? Was it after this time in Israel, or was it not during this time?
Basically, my job at Maudo was to help Facebook applications, so usually Facebook games, to grow and make more money. And I realized that some of the games were actually not so good, but because they had a really good marketing, they were having much more revenues than the really good games without good marketing. So I understood the power of the Facebook tools and the power of the AdWord in general and the power of buying advertising, what we call today PPC. So when I like a company, for example, when I like a product like Facebook product, PPCs and advertising product, I became a specialist about this product. I read everything about Facebook advertising product. And then when you work for or when you use a tool like Facebook or Twitter and you know it quite well, then you have all the time Google looking at you. When I say Google, I said like Google hiring managers, because they really look for people who knows their competitor. Why? Because usually when you're taking care of clients like the telco clients, you need to convince them to use the budget that they usually use on Facebook for Google product advertising, right? So I start learning about Google product and Facebook product, and naturally one day, so I mean, not naturally at all. I was very surprised, to be honest. I received an email from Google saying that they might be interested into offering me a position, but first I need to do around 8 interviews. So I started slowly to do interviews for Google while I was working for this Israeli company. And instead of telling myself every interview, oh my God, I'm doing an interview for Google, this is going to be very stressful, etc., I was only thinking about the next step. So if it was the first interview, I was thinking about the second interview. Or if it was the second interview, I was thinking about the third, etc., etc. And after 8 interviews, I got a job offer to join the Google headquarters in Dublin. And this is how I moved from sunny Israel to rainy Dublin.
And how was it the rain in Dublin? So you're there with Google now. So you're working with after leaving the sunny Israel, Tel Aviv, and you went to Dublin, which is a very exciting, despite the rain, very exciting place. And they had the Guinness beer and everything else over there. How was it to live there? And how was the cultural difference? And how was it working there for Google?
Listen, Ireland is a really cool country. I really like Irish people. I think they are seriously one of the best people I've been living with. They are all the time happy and joyful and very helping and caring. And those are very strong values for me. Regarding Google, that was a really nice experience. But I really understood at Google that I could not stay there too much because I didn't really understood what was my impact. The problem is when you work for those huge companies is that you have no idea about the impact you have on your daily job. If you go one day, if you don't go at work, what what did you do by the end of the day? What are you responsible for? How did you make this world better? And I understood at Google that basically I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to do something around the education, because I understood that this is the the bottleneck and the start point for almost everyone today.
So what did you do next? Was it at the time that you started to get involved with startups and go into the education segment of business, or not? What happened after Google?
So actually, at Google, I learned how to be part of a giant company. I learned how to be corporate and what was important in the corporate world. I learned obviously about advertising and programming and product management, but I didn't learn about sell. I didn't learn about how to sell a product, because when you work for Google and you call someone, everyone is seduced about you because everyone wants to work for you. So I really wanted to compete with Google. So that's the reason why I decided to join Criteo, which is probably one of the only unicorn, or one of the only few unicorn we have in France. Criteo is a product which is basically offering the technology which follows you all around internet. So for example, if you're looking at right now Marcello flight tickets for Israel Tel Aviv, and then you don't buy the tickets, and you will see this little technology following you all around by saying, "Hey, Marcello, don't forget to buy your tickets." So this is called the retargeting technology, and I wanted to work for the underdog, basically, and to see how hard it was to beat Google, and how I could sell, how I could learn how to sell. So instead of going to an academical course to learn how to sell, I just decided to take a sell job and see how much I can sell in a day. That's how I joined Criteo.
It's very interesting to go back since the beginning of the conversation, telling me you're not a good student, but you're very persistent, and so you realize that hard work really gets the attention of the teachers, and they're helping you, and you're learning from them, you're evolving, you're going to your masters, you realize that logistics is not something for you, and you go into a different path, and you go to Tel Aviv eventually, and you tell your boss there in France, I can open the new office there, and you go into another organization to help you understand marketing, and you go into Google, you learn how to work in a big company, and you look into that and say, look, I'm not seeing how I'm having an impact on society or whatever you want to have an impact on, and you realize to go to Criteo, which is a different organization. You're learning to sell things. So tell us a little bit more about the experience with you're the UK sales manager for Criteo. Can you tell us about what did you learn? How did you learn how to sell? And why is it important to learn how to sell? Can you tell us a little bit more about the experience there?
Of course. So basically, you're right. I wanted to learn how to sell in the same time, and I also wanted to have an impact on the society. So I understood that in order to sell, you need to work on cold calling. When you take your phone and you call someone who doesn't want to be called, and you need to sell him something. And that's exactly what I did for a year and a half. And that was probably one of the best training I got, because when you learn how to do everything the first 10 or 15 seconds, you know how to close a deal. You know how to convince anyone to have a coffee with you. You know how to convince any investor to hear you pitch, and you know how to convince any co-founder to start something or new venture with you. So basically, I was finding new websites all around, e-commerce websites all around the UK, and I was calling the e-commerce manager in order to sell them the Criteo solution, when they were all using the Google or the Facebook one. So by learning how to convince someone who is specialized in what he does, because an e-commerce manager's job is to make sure that he has a good ROI on the website, I learned about e-commerce and I learned about sales. And while I was doing this job was more, I don't want to say an alimentary job, it's definitely not that, but it was a job for me to learn, but to stop as well at 6. So from 6 to midnight, I could work on something or learn something new. And this is where I decided to bring my impact. I gathered so much information from Google, from Criteo, from the Facebook tools I was using, that I had a lot of friends coming to me and asking me to give them a little lecture about marketing. So I decided to write my first MOOC, my first massive online open course. And this is how I started my real entrepreneurial journey. And basically, I wrote this book. It's a 80-page book about marketing. It's like lessons about marketing. I took a cameraman and a video camera, and we shoot more than 8 hours of content, and I put it online. And I just wanted to say how people were using it. And I realized that people loved it. People loved the way I was cutting things like I should.
It's very interesting to go back in our conversation and see how the analogy that I make is you're building a house, right? So you're going back to your elementary school in France. You're building the foundation, the house, and you go through different organizations. You're building the walls, you're building you're painting the house, you're putting the roof, and you're gradually building yourself and getting the knowledge that you need to push products forward. That's what you're doing. You're going to other organizations or learning from them, and I was trying to push things forward. It's really incredible here to get to the point that you're launching your own MMOC here, right? So, and can you tell us a little bit more about what the MOOC does, and how do you get to publish that? What kind of platforms you're using? Are you using YouTube or using other platforms, or did you build your own platform to share the knowledge? What did you do?
Of course. So first of all, MOOC, you just pronounce it MOOC. It means Massive Online Open Course, and you just pronounce it MOOC. Everyone knows. I guess in at least in my office, everyone knows what is MOOC. I mean, you say MOOC, sorry. That's a really good question, and I think that's one of the biggest lesson I learned from my business life. Right now, I'm only 31, so I hope I will have a lot of lessons to learn. Is the fact that so I kind of sold my MOOC, my content, to a company, and for a very little amount of money, a ridiculous amount of money. And I also sold them my intellectual property about marketing. So I was really shocked, and I didn't see any money coming. So basically, they kind of took all the content without giving me anything. And I told myself, this is so unfair. I mean, this is a huge company. They have, I mean, it's a good company, not huge company. They have a lot of MOOC. They offer a lot of MOOC. They took my MOOC and they just didn't give me any money. And this is where I got my biggest lesson, because I lost a lot of money. I lost hundreds of hours of work, but I also learned a really good lesson. And by learning this lesson, I met my next co-founder, who is Usama Amal from the family, with who I founded Lion, the school we just talked about at the beginning. I actually, because I realized that I sold all my MOOC, I went to him and I said, listen, I'm desperate. I did this mistake and I don't know what to do. Is there any way I can get back my intellectual property on marketing on this country? And he said, no, you just did the biggest mistake of your life. But you know what? Let's have a coffee. I believe in destiny. And we had a coffee. And at the end of the coffee, it was in Spain. He told me, okay, so do you want to work with me in Paris tomorrow? And I was crazy enough to say yes. And I booked my entire life in 12 hours. And I took the flight the day after. And this is how I met Usama. And I founded the Lion with him.
So then that opened the next chapter in your life. So can you tell us a little bit more about this chapter? So you moved back to France and you founded the Lion. Can you tell us about Lion? Can you tell about the work you did, and how is it that's benefiting others, and how is it to work with your founder over there, your new partner?
Of course. So basically, I met Alice and Usama Amar, who are the founders of the family, which is one of the biggest. I called it a private investor in Europe. They were mainly focusing on they are mainly focusing on education, people, and basically capital to raise. And I really like this mission. I knew them before from their video. They have a lot of content. They actually have as well a Spotify channel. And I realized that they were very connected to more than 500 startups all around. And those startups, they were saying that they had a lot of difficulty to hire talented employees. They didn't know how to basically look for employees with the right education. So we decided with Osama to launch a school for startup employees, which is called Lion, where everyone from the educational world at the family, so every startups, were actually sharing their best value. They were sharing their knowledge from why they're so good. And like this, we build a curriculum, a syllabus of more than 400 startups saying and explaining and teaching us what they were good at. And this is how Lion was born. Basically, Lion is a school for startup employees. It offers uh, short programs in order to become a startup employee. You have few jobs in there, and this program you can do it in the same time that you are studying or working. The idea behind it is to explore the different jobs and the different work you have in a startup, and to choose which tool you would like to deep dive and learn. And today, I know that I'm not working for Lion anymore because, as you know, I founded Developers.institute a couple of years ago, but I've heard that now they have few thousand students, and it's still very well known in France.
That's fantastic. It's a great idea because it helps the startups and helps the students as well, right? It guides people to the kind of knowledge that they have to acquire in order to be able to go work for those startups as well. So opens a whole a big path in life for many people, right? So what was the next chapter after Lions? So you're there with them for some time, and then what did you decide to do next? And did you go back to Israel at the time, or did you take a job somewhere else? Or what was your next let's put it brick on what was the next brick that you put on the house, right? Because you're growing your house gradually, right? So Lion was another step in your learning journey, right? So you're getting to where you want to get to. So what was the next step on that path?
So the next step is the last step for the moment, and I really like it. So I'm not going to move anytime. We have a lot of work to do. But as soon as I understood that in Lion, again, the routine was coming back, and also the Usama and Alice and the direction of the family were taking another direction of what I wanted and what I really worked for. So I decided to basically focus more on my personal life and a bit less into my professional life, because back then I was 27, 28. I had no idea where I wanted to start a family, which country I wanted to settle. I used to live in those so many countries that I had no idea where was home. So I really needed to choose a place and to say, okay, this is where I decide to start a family. This is where I decide to put my roots, because after those 10 years living in a suitcase were not really mentally possible for me anymore. To be a digital nomad, it's great, but when you don't have a base at all, this can be also this can also impact negatively on yourself. So after taking so many years on focusing on my professional career, I really wanted to focus on myself and my health. So I decided to start seriously sports. I became a triathlete. I started to run, swim, and bike, and to really appreciate to sports and to also eat healthy. And I also decided to basically come back to Tel Aviv and found a family. And I recently got married. And we are, unfortunately, during Corona, but that was a really good experience. And we are very happy now here in Israel.
That's great, and congratulations for getting married. And it's another step in life, and it's incredible to go back here and look into all the steps you have taken in your career so far. And it's also important to see the importance of education for your life. And it's also important to realize that every organization that you went through, you're always learning about something. And you learn about marketing, you learn about sales, you learn about e-commerce, you learn about different technologies, you met people, you met your business partners, and that knowledge is always helping you to move forward to your next step. And when you're growing as you go, and you realize the importance of being healthy and being in good shape, and because that is going to help you to be productive as well, and be happy people do happy work, and produce good products as well, right? So then now you're back into Israel. And how did you go about founding your new business, and creating the Developers Institute, because you have all the experience from Lion, right? How was it to found the Developers Institute? Did you use your existing partners? Did you get new partners in Israel? What did you do? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I love this story as well because it shows how I can start from the very beginning again and again and again. I was basically, I wanted to launch Lion in Israel. That was my first idea. And then I realized that I should meet other people, other co founders, other friends or entrepreneurs in this area. So I was going to all kind of meetups. Those are like little meetings between people with common interests. So I went to all the high-tech meetups for French high-tech, for Israeli high-tech in Tel Aviv. And I met Avner, my first co-founder, and he was telling about how he had a lot of corporate experience, but he didn't had any operational experience. And the same with Jeremy. He had a lot of financial experience, but no one really put, I would say, the ends into the work and did the actual work. So I went to them and I said, hey, I think we should definitely work together because I have something that you don't, and you have a lot of things that I don't. So let's just partner. And when you are a 30, I was 27 years old back then, and you look old. I'm lucky enough to look younger, so I'm not sure that people took me seriously. They were like, okay, really, really nice, very good, but listen, we are not interested, so bye bye. I told them, no, you don't understand. I Your school doesn't exist yet. Your school is basically a PowerPoint presentation. I've been hearing your presentation for 3 months. Nothing have changed for 3 months. I think you need an operational manager. You need someone to make things happen. So I took my my legendary solution and I offered them to be the intern for 3 months. I told them, I said, listen, let me be your intern for 3 months. Don't pay me. Um, as soon as I will launch the school, if you don't like the way I work, just give me the opportunity to sit in the school because I want to learn coding. Do we have a deal? And they said yes. Um, and 3 months after, we launched the first class with a physical location with 10 students, 10 paying students, and a teacher. And I sat naturally in the class, and they came to pick me up, offered me a founder agreement, and the rest is history.
That's incredible, right, Sonia? And like you said, use your technique of offering to be an intern, and that paid dividends to you, right? So you became a founder of the organization. So are you learning to be a coder as well? So what are you going that path? Are you learning to code as well?
Of course, you know me.
Yeah, that's fantastic, right? So and then you're going from one class, and here comes the pandemic hits you guys, and but you're still growing, and now you're in several different countries, and you're helping people. You're creating classes everywhere, and you're teaching a whole bunch of students on how to code, which is incredibly exciting. And what do you feel when you talk with the people who are going through the training, who are learning to code? What kind of transformations do you see on their lives, and how do you feel about the effort that you're putting together to help these guys to move on their lives. What do you see? What kind of transformation do you see in their lives right now?
You know, it's magical when you see adults and young adults to discover and learn something new. A lot of us, usually when they do career change, they don't really have the chance, or they forgot what it means to go to university and understand something, make things happen. And I see the haha moments, you know, when they took a month to understand something and finally it's working and they're proud of them and they're happy, and they use so much of resilience and benevolence and motivation. And this is the best gift I can actually get from my students, when I see them understand that they have this new opportunity thanks to the coding, and they can basically learn something new or launch their own company, be freelancers. It gives me a lot of energy.
Yeah, it's there's nothing better than seeing others evolving from something that you have done, that you have helped them somehow to move forward in life, right? Seeing change in life and positive change in life is always something very good, right? And it's incredible to see that. We see that happening in our programming group there, where we're trying to learn young adults to learn to program, and we have seen people going through some of the coding challenges that we have, and then they find jobs. And it's there is a fellow now going to the Cayman Islands because he found a job over there, but he started 4 years ago just with some of the coding challenges that we have on the group. And what about plans for the future? Because and like you said, knowing you're not stopping here. You're growing the organization, and what kind of plans do you have in mind for yourself? Are you running a triathlon somewhere? Are you doing? I know that Israel, you're now fully vaccinated, so hopefully the pandemic will be something from the past sometime very soon. And what's your plan for the future? Just keep moving and keep improving, increasing the size of the Developers Institute, or what do you have in mind?
I will always, what I have in mind for the next year is to be always open to meet new people, to learn something new. I try always to, learn a new skill almost every month. So right now I'm learning about Amazon and drop shipping and everything about that because everyone is talking about it. Um, I would say that my next plan is just to be open minded and to I wish to meet as many people as I can, and this is why I'm very happy and proud to be in Israel right now, because I can just go and meet people healthy, and that's exactly what I want to do. Just continue what I used to do for the last 10, 15 years and make it better. I obviously want to take care of this amazing baby called Developers Institute and make it grow. Right now, it's kind of a teenager, almost all over the world. So it's going to be also challenging because you don't manage a startup locally the same way that you manage a startup globally.
Yeah, it's incredible to see that organization growing, right? And it's also incredible to look back at your career. You're still very young, but how much knowledge you have acquired, and that helped to create the organization that's helping other people, and you're really meeting other people, just like you met me at some point in time, right? So, and it's perhaps we should tell people here that listening to us that Megan and I, we share DNA. We met each other through a DNA test, and we're cousins, but we don't know how we are connected exactly. But we know that we have some common ancestors somewhere in history. Like the fellow that told you, Megan, some point in time, destiny is something interesting, right? So here we are in different countries and different origins, and we're here together sharing your knowledge online, and hopefully that will help other people as well to have to get inspired and get going with their careers as well. So it's very exciting to be having this conversation. It's about the knowing other people and talking to other people that you're just describing here. So one thing that I always ask my guests as we're getting closer to the end of the conversation here is about what would you recommend to the people who are starting right now, like have people in Brazil or Portugal or other countries that speak English or Portuguese, and they're going through the challenge of trying to understand what a computer is, or trying to understand what's a IDE, what's Python, what's a JavaScript, and there's a whole bunch of information out there. But what would you recommend to these people who are trying to learn, and what would you say that they should start, and how do they prepare themselves to perhaps try and see if this is something that they like? What would be your recommendation to them?
It's a very good question. I would definitely recommend you guys to, take a LinkedIn account, create a LinkedIn account, and just go out there and speak with people. You will be amazed to see how people are actually happy to talk about themselves. You can just go in and look for a developer, and you will have a list of people, developers, and just ask them to have a 10 or 15 minutes coffee chat of a Zoom, just to understand what's their job and what they're doing and if they like what they're doing, etc. The best way to understand if you like a job or not, or if this is done for you or not, is just to talk to someone who is doing this amazing job. And the other thing I would definitely advise to your students is to focus on resilience. Nothing is easy, really, and this is something that Quincy Jones in the previous English episode was saying, is there is a lot of really good coders out there, but if you don't have the right attitude, it doesn't help so much. So don't if you don't have the right coding skills, then put everything on the attitude, because it's actually working. I'm the proof that it's working. I was not the clever one out there. I was the outgoing one. I was the one talkative, and it took me wherever I am today.
That's excellent recommendation. Like and persistence is everything too, right? And talking to people and learning from others and evolving and baby steps, right? So and that's a really good recommendation there. And what about recommendations about books, music, or movies? Not necessarily anything that's technology related, but something that you like reading or listening to, or that you enjoy watching that you'd like to recommend to your listeners.
I really, really love Amy Winehouse, and I really, really love jazz music. So anything about, especially old records like Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong, those are my definitely my favorite playlists. I'm also like m- really passionate about classical music. So anything about Chopin or about Vals from Chopin or Nocturne from Chopin will be amazing. And regarding books, the last book that I read, I really, really like, was I read it in French. It's called La Servante Ecarlate, but it's from Margaret Atwood, which is basically the base story for the TV show. And I really like her book. I really enjoy book, and I really enjoy any kind of thrillers as well. So anything from Thomas Harris or from Hannibal are one of the best book I would recommend. I know it's very weird, but I'm happy about my weird side.
And Megan, another question I was going to ask you is how is it to live in Israel? Because Israel is far away from Brazil, and it's not a common destination for Brazilians, right? So I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit more about Israeli culture. How is it to be in the country? And you mentioned about Tel Aviv. Every time that I see pictures of Tel Aviv, it kind of makes me think about the Brazilian coast as well. I see the ocean. I see, like you said, it's a lively kind of city as well. I was hoping you could mention to us how is it to live in Israel, and how is the culture, how is the food, and how is the because it sounds absolutely fantastic. I was hoping you could share a little bit of that with our listeners.
Well, Israeli food is really, really good. It's really healthy as well. That's what I like. It's a lot of vegetables and salads and fish, and we do meat as well. We do cook meat, especially during Shabbat dinners. We have a lot of fruits. We love fruits in Israel. Israel is a really cool country. It's a very small country. It's only 700 kilometers from the top north to the top south. So it's probably very small for any Brazilian listening to us. But you have a lot of variety. In the north, you have a mountain which is called Hermon, where you can actually ski a month a year. And then in the deep south, you have Elat, which is an oasis in the middle of the desert. It's at the border of Israel, Syria, and Lebanon and Egypt. It's a mix of culture. You have beautiful landscape. You have beautiful corals in the sea because it's the Red Sea. So it's a really, really beautiful fish out there. I personally really like the sea, especially in Tel Aviv. So we have the Mediterranean Sea in Tel Aviv, and I love swimming in the sea. It's a beautiful, beautiful country where you have a coast from the very top of the country to the very south of the country, and you have a desert in the middle. So you have all kind of you know vegetables and all kind of as well of landscape. You have desert, you have oasis, you have sea landscapes, and you also have a lot of forests. So I would really welcome you guys into Israel because it's an amazing country. Just wait a few months, probably, then skies will open and enjoy.
That sounds like a fantastic place to visit. So hopefully the vaccines will be everywhere soon. And Megan, it's been an incredible pleasure talking to you here. And just before we depart, any social media, do you use Twitter or LinkedIn, anything you'd like to share with our listeners so they can contact you if they would like to talk to you, ask some questions?
Of course. So don't laugh at me, but actually, I don't tweet so much. I don't have time to tweet and read about Twitter. I mean, I have a Twitter account, but it's just for fun. For sometimes, you can definitely follow me on LinkedIn. And you can follow our Developers Institute page on Facebook. This is where I mainly write about our entrepreneurial journey as well.
That's fantastic. So thank you so much for the time. It's been a great pleasure talking to you today, and I look forward to seeing and talking with you further. So fantastic. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and have an amazing day, cousin.
Shalom. Thank you.
Shalom.
Chegamos ao final de mais um episódio. Agradeço a todos a atenção e o nosso site é OsProgramadores.com. Participem e até o próximo episódio. Um bom dia para todos.